My name is Robert Jenkins. I'm the Executive Director of the Brockton Redevelopment Authority. This public meeting is in regards to the proposed amendments to the Downtown Brockton Urban Renewal Plan, Urban Revitalization Plan. And this is a meeting of our Citizens Advisory Committee. Today is Friday, April 15th, 2022. One of the purposes of this meeting is for the advisory committee to take comments, to go through the proposed amendments. We do have scheduled a special meeting of the Brockton Redevelopment Authority Board of Directors scheduled for Wednesday the 20th, Pat?
Yes, at 10 o'clock.
Wednesday the 20th at 10 a.m., where the committee will do a vote to the Board of Directors to get them to approve the proposed amendments. Right now, I'm sharing my screen. I'm going to take you folks through the amendments. Rob May, since you're on, you probably know the amendments better than I do. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me. If you guys can just, also, if it's okay, since there's not that many of us here, Rob, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Rob May. I'm Director of Planning and Economic Development for the City of Brockton, and Robert
Excellent.
And the BRA on this proposal.
Fantastic. Frank, if you can introduce yourself, please.
Sure. I'm Frank Early, Chairman of the CAC.
Janet, could introduce yourself, please.
Janet Trask, and I'm a member of the CAC.
Excellent. Greg Day, if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Greg Day. I am a principal of the company, the Day Brothers, who's working with the city and the BRA for the development and redevelopment of Site AC. And with me is my son, Dale Day.
Excellent. Dale, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Is it?
It is just Dale Day.
Yes.
A member of the Day Brothers Development Group. Yes, Dale?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
I can tell you haven't had much practice at this, huh, Dale? We're going to get you into Brockton, and you will have plenty of practice when this is over. All right?
Dale, I thought it was brothers, not sons.
Well, I have 4 sons, so that's the brothers side of it.
Got it.
Excellent. Excellent.
So Robert?
Yes.
I would like to remind the audience that this is the 3rd public meeting that we've had with the advisory committee. That at our first committee meeting, we learned about all the success that the Redevelopment Authority has had in implementing the urban renewal plan, and that we were looking for new projects, and that we had asked the folks at home to give us some ideas and thoughts, and that came about in our 2nd public meeting, and we have some more stuff to talk about that's now incorporated in this 3rd meeting, which will be then presented to the Brockton Redevelopment Authority Board for their adoption.
Excellent. Thank you, Rob. I might have missed that point, but that's why I have you and Pat here. Excellent. So why don't we just go through the proposed amendments? Here we go. What has changed? Zoning map update to reflect changes to the smart growth zoning overlay district. New properties have been added to the acquisition and disposition list. We've updated the rehabilitation, demolition, and the new construction list. Proposed redevelopment projects revised. Update of the proposed infrastructure and public amenities, and update budgets. Smart growth zoning update. As everyone knows, City Council revised the zoning ordinance in 2016, expanding the downtown core subdistrict. We've created Perkins Park subdistrict. Rob, do you want to take us through some of the smart growth zoning updates and
So
current
this-
zoning?
So this is the map of the smart growth zoning district. You can see a new district on the northwest corner, which is highlighted in green, and that is the Perkins Park Development District. The large purple area is the downtown core. It's expanded a little, but it also has more volume and velocity, more volume and development potential. And the Corcoran district at the bottom, which is in an orangey color, has also expanded a little bit. And then the rest of the district stays the same.
Excellent. New acquisitions and disposition parcels. Several parcels here, site AC, which Greg Day had mentioned, AC Stottleman Block, Frederick Douglass Avenue, L Street, Warren Avenue. Site Y, which is a 111 Legion Parkway and adjacent to a parking lot. Site W, private parking lot between Legion Parkway and Frederick Douglass Avenue. Site AE, private parking lot on Main Street at school, Main Street and school. Site S, site-owned parcels, city-owned parcels, on Green Street, adjacent to Fire Station 1. Site AD, 134, 144 Main Street, Kennedy Department Store. Also, you may know that as Marion Tuxedo Buildings
No,
in Vegas.
Across the street from Marion.
Okay, across the street from the Marion properties, Site Z, 26 School Street. Site X, which is 63 Legion Parkway.
I would want to point out that site W, the parking lot, is where the Liberty Tree is located. Just FYI.
Excellent. Anyone have any questions about any of these particular sites or need more clarification on where they're located?
I think the map on the next page should give you a better. Yes.
Correct. Excellent. Can you folks make out this map? You see the letters? As you notice, the ones in red are the amended acquisitions and transfer of parcels for 2021. You should just make also a note, Rob, that we've been working on this now for about a year and a half.
Oh, yeah.
So if you guys folks have any questions in regards to the location or clarification, please don't hesitate to ask. One of the purposes of this public meeting is to get comments and to ask questions. This will also be broadcast later on YouTube on the BRA website, as well as on the city's public cable access.
This map shows the disposition parcels that we have been discussing, and you can see where the city wants to acquire some pieces of property, but this one shows which ones are going to be sold off. And we have some new updates to this map that will be making available shortly when we publish the draft, which is being finalized after this meeting today.
Nobody's sitting there. You can see you anyway. Come on in. We've been joined by another member of the CAC. Nelson, want to introduce yourself?
I'm Nelson Fernandez from JJ's Cafe.
CAC member.
Member as well.
Rehabilitation, demolition, and new construction. Properties for rehabilitation, 132 Main Street, which is the Kennedy block. 63 Legion Parkway. Properties for demolition and new construction, 26 School Street. That property is already down, I believe, so we're looking at new construction.
Yes.
44 Frederick Douglass Avenue. 136 Warren Avenue. 59 Green Street. 137 Main Street. 141 Main Street, and 111 Legion Parkway. Rob, is it okay if I just go through some of these I'm very familiar with? And since we do have the Day brothers here, Greg, do you want to talk a little bit about the properties or the demolition and new construction strategy for
Actually,
Frederick Douglass? Is that on here?
that is going to be a whole slide to itself.
Okay.
A little bit further along.
Okay, so we'll hold off on that. Rob, are there any ones on here you want to talk about in particular?
The rehab, 63 Legion Parkway. There was a couple of stores in that area it's right next to the Alamo, for those of you who know the area. And there was a fire in there about 4 or 5 years ago, and the current owner has done nothing to fix up the place. And so we figured that we might as well light a candle under his, help him out in making decisions. Sorry. And then 44 Legion Parkway is the Stadelman Garage. And then 111
Is
I'm
44.
sorry, 44 Frederick Douglass Avenue is the Stadelman Garage, excuse me. And then 111 Legion Parkway is at the very far end on the north side of Legion Parkway. It looks like it's 2 different buildings that have been joined into one, and they have a vacant 2nd and 3rd floor. And periodically they have some stores on the 1st floor, but it's in really bad shape, and somebody, again, needs to convince the owner to do something with the property.
Excellent. Whether my arrow going up or down.
And this map shows those properties a little bit better as to what is going to be rehab, demoed, or reconstructed, or be new construction. And you'll see that some of the squares or site boundaries are unshaded, but they're the same color coding. That is to designate the difference between the original plan and the amended sites. So the amended sites are always in a solid color, and then the existing sites are in just a border.
And so the existing sites, Rob, just so that we're clear, are the ones that are shaded in a more grayish color, or just not colored at all, or just?
They're not colored at all. They have a colored border.
Right.
So it's either that tealy blue or the purpley. At least that's what it looks like on my screen, tealy and purpley.
Yep.
Rob, can I ask a question? This is Janet.
Yes, Janet.
Who's likely to do the convincing?
We have been really successful with Robert and the BRA to go out and say to the property owners, look, we want to work with you to make something happen with your property. And, you know, we have some carrots, you know, to make them want to come to the table and to do some great things with their properties. We'll also do matchmaking. Robert has been known to put people together and make deals. And then at the last possible instance is the last resort is to potentially use eminent domain. But we want to be able to give Robert and the Redevelopment Authority the power to go out and negotiate some deals with these folks so that everybody can participate in the redevelopment of Brockton.
And Janet, to that point, we've been really successful at the matchmaking. For a lot of these sites, we've already been approached by folks who are interested in doing development. So both by the owners and by outside developers like the Day brothers, who have approached us and looking to invest in the city and downtown. So
Where does the owner live?
which one are you referring to?
Well, I'm not sure.
They're
But I
all
mean,
over. Yeah, I mean, for instance, the Legion Parkway guy, Sammy, lives in Cambridge. Brockton is not high on this list, I should say. And then we also have, the Marion properties, which we'll get to that. They live in Brockton.
right,
You know,
right.
so they're all over there.
Okay. So they're sort of local.
For the Marion properties, of
Some of
course,
them,
they're,
Yeah.
yeah.
In Cambridge, I mean, it's not like in another state or something.
Well, it is the Republic, so, Excellent. Excellent. Proposed development projects. Proposed redevelopment projects. Once again, these are highlighted revitalization parcels.
Now, I would like to note, in the previous slides, we've had sites lettered A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That was a way of aligning the parcel with the property ID number, to make it easier for people who are trying to, you can't put the whole property ID number on some of these parcels on these maps because they're too small. This map shows parcels listed by a different set of lettering, but this is what we call the catalytic development sites. So periodically you'll hear Robert or myself refer to AC or N or R. That's these sites. And, it's weird. We've worked with them so long that we know them by these letters.
And most people don't, right? Or just learning them. But
So if you hear us say something like, AF, stop us and say, where is AF? And I'll tell you, that's the Lincoln lot, the city-owned parking lot on Lincoln in Montello.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Rob.
You're welcome.
Most of you folks are familiar with the AC site, which is actually the Frederick Douglass Avenue on the corner of Warren Avenue and also L Street, which is the site that we can start talking about since the Day brothers are here, which is approximately 62,000 square feet. This parcel has been identified for a mix of development, including a 300+ space parking garage, multifamily residential development, and a commercial development, perhaps a vertical urban farm. This is a 3D version of what we're talking about. And at this point, Rob, we can talk about it for days because we have been, or years.
Well, let me set this up just a little bit. So to the right, the road that is adjacent to the blue, that is Warren Avenue. And you can see the old high school adjacent to that. And that whole area is going to become the new public safety building. If you look to the left of the picture, which is to the east, you can see the Grayson Hotel and the Marion property behind it with the white walls. And then the Ganley, or the hotel, or West Elm Court Hotel. And this is an old picture, so you can see the old building that was at 47 West Elm before it was torn down and Joffrey built his new building there. So, and that's dead center on the yellow above you. So, Greg, would you like to talk about the project?
Sure. So this is a program that we actually are implementing in Maine, the city of Westbrook, which is right next to Portland. And it, as it's shown here, it's a combination of uses, which I think in aggregate, make it a compelling urban, sustainable model for urban development. And really the goal when we started this was to take our, the concept that we created in Maine and then export it to Brockton. And the site, but the two sites match up almost identically. So it seemed like a really attractive fit. So that's just some context and background. And so as shown here, this has multiple uses. To the far right is what would be the urban farm, and this would be designed as commercial scale production, growing produce. And it's, you know, it offers several benefits, both in terms of an employee base, but also in terms of just growing local food. And then adjacent to the farm is a parking structure, which is shown in gray. On the ground floor, the parking structure is commercial space, retail space, which would front Frederick Douglass Avenue, and look to have, you know, a combination of uses that are complementary and really activate that corridor. On top of the garage, which is kind of interesting, is would be residential apartment units. And so, you know, in the project we're doing in Maine, we have about 60 units. For this project, we think it'd be closer to 100 units by the time the design is done. And so that is the program in aggregate. And it, like I said, it benefits from 3 years and a lot of analysis and studying and engineering that was done for our project in Maine. And we're excited to bring the concept to the city of Brockton.
Excellent. Thank you, Greg. Does anyone from the CAC members or anyone who's participating have any questions?
Yeah, Robert, I do.
Yes, Frank.
All right. Greg, in terms of the development here, the yellow part there is where the residential units would be. And the gray part is the garage underneath?
Correct.
All right. So, and you're anticipating 100 units there, and it might be too early to speak to this, but are these going to be market rate units? They're going to be, you know, basically 1 and 2 bedroom units, as far as you know?
It's a little early, as you said, but essentially I think it'll be a combination of both affordable units, you know, and, you know, there's a range of affordability based on area medium income and market rate units. And so we have spoken with Mass Housing, some of the executives there. Certainly will avail ourselves to some of the programs that they offer for housing, for financing housing. And we'll do some additional market analysis, but certainly looking at some of the projects that have been done to date in Brockton, you know, it seems like there is this combination of both affordable and market rate. And so we'd be looking to implement that.
Okay. And the assumption being also that the garage underneath, there would be dedicated parking spaces to those units, but the rest of the parking spaces would be open to the public?
Yeah, the way we did it in Maine is, you know, it's a municipal, and like it would be here, a municipal owned garage. So it would be a public garage. And there, this gets a little technical, but you know, whether or not there are actually designated spaces or they're just, you know, allocated spaces for the residential, you know, will sort of be determined. But I think what's contemplated is close to 380 spaces, between 380 and 400. So that should be ample parking. What's one of the things, what's kind of, I think, what works well is that, you know, the residential tenants will want to park on the upper floor, and most municipal parkers will want to park on the lower floor. So there's kind of a natural divide between the two. And there will be obviously a dedicated, one dedicated elevator just for the residential, and a dedicated elevator for the garage.
Okay, all right, great.
You know, As
Thank you,
most
Greg.
people know, this is already a large surface lot for the most part that the Brockton Parking Authority operates and leases out to various businesses down there. So in order to make this work, we have to first repark all of those people, make sure that, you know, those are people already working and living downtown, so we want to keep them. We need to provide parking for the residential units that the Day brothers are talking about building, plus the commercial and greenhouse space. And then we'd like to have some left over available for other residential and mixed use developments downtown who don't have parking on their site right now, like the Kennedy Block or the Hotel Grayson, who are built lot line to lot line and have no parking. So their tenants would be able to take advantage of parking in this garage also, as will visitors to the new public safety building.
And Greg, can I ask, is there still a commitment to some sort of plaza or small park in association with the Liberty Tree on that street?
Janet?
I'll let Rob. Yeah, Rob. I'll
Okay.
let you.
That is a city-sponsored project, and I'll let you know that Mayor Sullivan has put in an order to council asking to spend $1.2 million to acquire the site where the Liberty Tree is located. The rest of that area is going to become a park. We've kind of named it Abolitionist Park because we want to talk about Frederick Douglass. We want to talk about the other folks that helped pre-Civil War. And there was an Underground Railroad stop adjacent. And so we want to be able to incorporate some of that history. But the neat thing about that is that it will also connect Legion Parkway to the new garage through this beautiful new green link experience and experiential place.
Bob, am I located where my arrow is? Is this right about this corner,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes, you are. That's the Liberty Tree right there.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
great news, great news.
Excellent. Any other questions? Excellent. Site-wide, we talked a little bit about this, which is a 111 Legion Parkway parcels. There are two parcels on Legion Parkway and be combined into location U. Rob, you want to talk a little bit about this? And I think we have a.
We had identified the garage that was on the corner before, but this property at 111, which consists of two parcels, the parcel with the building and the parcel that is surface parking, have been vacant and underutilized since long before I moved to Brockton. And it's an important site because it's going to be kitty corner to the new public safety building, but it also is kind of a gap between the retail stretch that is Legion Parkway and Vicente's. And we want to be able to wrap that corner so that people feel comfortable walking. The idea is to create a walkable path from the MBTA commuter rail station down Center, down Legion Parkway, and up Warren to Vicente's Market.
Most of you may know this used to be Legion Parkway Pizza that's located here, but once again, through the pandemic, they've been not open, and I think they're not going to open from what I gather in talking with the folks who did rent there. This building, as Rob says, has been vacant and underutilized for decades. There is a vacant lot here, and I think we have a concept of what we'd like to see here, which, as Rob says, makes it much more walkable, much more pleasant walk to Vicente's, which is right across here. But this is a concept. Rob, tell us who did this concept. Was it not, I keep thinking it's Boston Agricultural or Architectural School?
Architectural College.
Yes.
Yes. So these were some students from Boston Architectural College came to Brockton as part of a class practicum and developed drawings for several buildings. This was a particularly interesting one because it's sort of an L-shaped lot and it's narrow. And so how do you get parking on there? How do you get retail? And how do you get residential? And I think that they've done a good job. Now, this is, again, just a concept. This fits on the site. We don't know what's actually going to happen there. But we want to show the world that something could happen.
That's also great news, because that's probably the toughest spot in Brockton.
Especially across the street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the whole sort of central area there, and it's not a big area, but it's a tough area.
Yep.
It's also one of the most, I would say probably the most, how should I say, as far as driving into the city, the most visible drive into the city. That is the South 123. What route is that comes right down Pleasant Street?
27.
27. Thank you, Rob. That comes right down into the center of the city. So.
And will parking remain the same on Legion Parkway, which is kind of an old-fashioned downtown way of parking?
When we are working on a plan to convert a couple of streets downtown to two-way traffic and to green up downtown. And so there, we anticipate keeping parking on Legion Parkway, but also adding other green amenities, more streetscape, and some bike lanes.
Excellent.
This is Site W. It's formerly associated with the Security Federal Savings Bank. It's where the beauty supply shop is now, but it's also the site of the Liberty Tree. And at the bottom slide, you can see the Liberty Tree regrowing back there, the tall one. Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
But it'll
this
be
is
a
all-
beautiful plaza walkway between Legion Parkway and the new parking garage.
And just one more question, Rob. They say there was a barn on the other side of this little parking area that was used for the Underground Railroad. Is that still in the works to do something with that barn?
Well, the barn that used to stand there is long gone, and that is now 1115 Frederick Douglass. And Robert is working with a developer now on a proposed commercial redevelopment of that site. It's a historic building. We want to keep it there, but we want to incorporate the concept of the Underground Railroad into this park that's adjacent to the site.
Okay. Are there still any remaining chambers that they used, or with the barn leaving everything?
It's gone. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sometimes we roll over history. This is just a conceptual drawing of what the Green Link or the Abolitionist Park would be like. Keeping the Liberty Tree, adding some, nice lighting and decorative interpretation, and and then you can see on Legion Parkway, there's a new mid-block cross to get from one side to the other, and lots of green space.
Rob, this is
Yes,
Frank.
sir.
Just a general question. A lot of redevelopment going on downtown. I love the green spaces that are being put in here and there, but I think there should be consideration made for, as families move into downtown and we start bringing in more people. Parks are great, but playgrounds are just as important. Is there any plans for a playground in that area?
Actually, we do have a plan for a playground of all places at Perkins Park. So when Father Bill's Mainsprings moves to their new location, we have an opportunity to revive Perkins Park. Now, for those of you who remember, the front part, or the closest to North Main Street, has some really nice historic monuments, and there's a big monument to the Union soldiers of the Civil War, and I believe there's a women's suffragette fountain in the front. So it has some really great historic features. But the back half of the park is just this grass lot, and that would be a great place to put in some playground equipment and really create a place for people to bring their families. Likewise, a little bit further down, closer to the Corcoran building, we're exploring areas where we can build a playground at that end also.
And don't show the parents what it used to look like there.
Oh God, no.
We also are looking at some parklets in between a lot of this development, Frank, just so that you know. Unfortunately, with a lot of the gateway cities being built out, green space is at a premium. And looking at little parklets in green and breaking up some of the development that's going on so that it doesn't look more so what I call either a concrete jungle or an asphalt jungle, you know.
True that.
And when is Mainspring moving to its new place?
They've already started. They are under agreement. They're doing testing now on the site. They already have agreement and a lease agreement with the Department of Health and Human Services. So I suspect they will start construction, Jan. It's probably in the fall. They've been asked to apply out of round for funding, which I think it's already in, and they'll probably know sometime in May or June. It looks very positive. And we've supported their moving out, and the city has a right of first refusal for the shelter that's on Main Street, so, or Spring Street, Spring and Main. So we suspect that construction will take probably 12 to 18 months, 20 months. So it won't be until next year that they actually move or actually get occupancy. So we have some time, but again, this is why we're planning ahead and looking at other parts to develop. It'll be interesting to see what we do with that site.
And this is an interesting site here, AE. This is the parking lot that's on the corner of Main and School Street. You can see City Hall is right behind this. The Kennedy Building is on the south side of this. So that's where Elvira's on the first floor is located. And then across the street is the new Sycamore on Main, where the Brockton Beer Company is located. What we'd like to do is expand City Hall Plaza into this space. We have a really great farmers market, and we'd like to have more space for them. And we'd also like to incorporate some active activities for folks. So maybe a splash pad, or maybe a hockey rink or ice skating rink in the winter. They make a new product that is a fabric that you actually skate on. And so you don't need to have all the water and the freezing equipment. And if you've been to Worcester, you know you have a couple of warm days and their hockey or their ice rink turns to slush. This would be able to use throughout the season. So this is just, again, a conceptual idea of what it could look like. There's a lot of moving pieces to make this happen. The biggest moving piece is making sure that we get the garage built on Frederick Douglass so that we can move people out of the Adams garage and into the Frederick Douglass garage, so that we can then move the surface parkers on this private parking lot into the Adams garage.
Very nice. Any questions, comments? And once again, as Rob explained, these are all renderings with very good conceptuals, taking advantage of some of the space and making it more green in our downtown.
Site S was already in the urban renewal plan, And Site S is where the historic downtown fire station is and the fire communications building is. But we forgot to add the 3 parcels on Green Street, which are behind that. And so what this plan does is add those 3 parcels so that we have a large redevelopment block. We would love to see the historic restoration of the old fire station. If we could do it ourselves for the city, that would be wonderful, but we might have to bring in some private dollars, and by putting it into the redevelopment district, we'd be able to do that. As you know, we're building a new public safety building downtown. So the fire apparatus and fire personnel that are in this building and in the fire alarm building are all going to be moving to the new public safety building. So these 2 buildings and the land that backs up onto Green, is it Green? Yes.
Green, it's green, yes.
Green are available for redevelopment.
Remind you, this fire station was built when, Rob? It's probably one of the oldest.
It's
if
over
not-
100 years old. It's one of the first fire stations, if not the first fire station, to have electric lighting. And it was wired by Thomas Edison himself.
Has some very nice, interesting historical value.
The Kennedy Block,
Indeed.
by AD. Now, we are working with a developer who has just purchased the Kennedy Block and is working to rehab, but it's always best to have a trigger to pull if you need to. He's a really great guy that's working on it right now, but you remember the block had been owned by a Brockton family for years. It has been 90% vacant up until the recent sale. But we'd like to see somebody do something with this property. And so when David Tragash came forward with his company, we're really excited to see some of the plans that he's pulling together for the historic restoration of this building, which include keeping Elvira's on the first floor.
How many units is he looking at doing, Rob? Approximately?
I'm going to say it's in the 45 unit range.
And that's residential and commercial use, correct?
Yes, commercial retail on the first floor and then residential above. I really like the windows on the third floor. Oh, fourth floor, excuse me.
Fourth floor, yeah. Very nice architectural.
But all those little air conditioners will be gone when they redo the building. Site
Thank you.
Z is across the street from City Hall. It used to be the old telephone exchange. It was torn down by the city several years ago, and we're working with a new owner to build a new building there. But we want to have the insurance that it's in the urban renewal district. So if the city and the BRA have to step in, it's already teed up. So this is putting a little pressure on the owner to do something, but we're working with them, and I think we're going to see a great project here.
Agreed.
This was a conceptual done for the previous owner, who then did nothing with the project. But we'll see a new design for this site that has a lot more development and first floor retail fronting School Street.
Rob, what are they going to do with the fire station?
The fire station, we want to find someone who's going to do a historic restoration to the building, either individually or in partnership with the city.
So Janet,
Could
we've
make a
talked
great
about,
museum space.
exactly. Mhm.
This is Site X. X marks the spot. This is 63 Legion Parkway. There was a fire in here over 5 years ago, and the owner, who is in Cambridge, has done nothing with the property since then. And so we think it's important that the redevelopment authority has the option to acquire the property and has some muscle that we can reach out and get him to do something or else.
We'll do something, right? So once again, Legion Parkway is a real busy, what I call another business hub that is right downtown. I mean, there's a lot of activity with the Neighborhood Health Center. Harbor One used to have their headquarters there. And then even with the Firestone, what is it, Firestone Repair.
At the far end, yeah.
Far end. And also our public safety facility will be looking down Legion Parkway. So you kind of want this to kind of, there's opportunity here to make this really look like a real business hub in downtown Brockton.
But we can't let people who live outside of the city just let their properties deteriorate. We have to step in and do something.
So, proposed infrastructure and public amenities. Talk about the Frederick Douglass Avenue Garage. Rob's going to talk about his Performing Arts Center. Expanding City Hall Plaza. We looked in the green links. Rob, I didn't see your plaza in here. It's in here. Okay.
The blue is the plaza. So do you want to talk about the garage first?
Yes, let's talk about the garage. Once again, we're looking to get funding for the garage. It'll be here's the strategy or the methodology for, and this is on the Frederick Douglass, the Warren Ave and L Street, and more so for the Frederick Douglass and the garage piece, doing acquisition from Stottleman through the city, working with the Day brothers to build the garage, and then do some type of turnkey or the redevelopment authority building the garage.
Could you move your mouse over that space, because the shading of the garage doesn't show up very well?
Which is here.
Right there, just below that.
Okay.
That's the green link, and there's the garage.
Yeah. Excellent.
So let's go through. Okay. Performing Arts Center, you say? Well, yes, possibly. There were 5 theaters in downtown Brockton at one time that have either closed, or we've torn them down, or they've burned down, tragically burned down, like the Strand Theater. But that leaves a vacuum in downtown, that there's no place to go and see a play, or for the symphony to play, or, you know, community theater, or things like that. So what about bringing a performing arts space back downtown? We worked with a couple of designers and did some research to see how big a theater needed to be. And there was really one space that stood out that said, you know, this is the right size. It's kind of in the right area. It could work. We don't know how we're going to pay for it yet, but you know, when we started this urban renewal process in 2016, we said, we're going to build a new police station. Everybody says, you're crazy. How could you, you know, and we're building it now. So this is kind of like planting a flag in the sand and saying, you know, let's figure out how we can make this work. And let's preserve this spot to make sure that we have it in the future. And I think there's another picture.
Yeah.
So this is across the street from City Hall. WB Mason is behind it. It's next to BRA's office. So Robert will be able to look in the windows. But it could be a really cool space that has 2 different size theaters and classroom and studio space and a restaurant and a bunch of things. But let's
Here's-
think about it long term. We've got 20 years, we got 30 years, heck. But if we don't start working towards it, it'll never happen.
And here's my couple of thoughts. Is like you said, Rob, plant the seed. The fact is we don't have a performing arts center for even students over at, other than the high school, actually come downtown and perform. For that matter, there are very few places in southeastern Massachusetts where you can actually go to see a play, to go to a performing arts center. So it's also a draw, I think. And Brockton being the only city in Plymouth County, I think it's a good location. Easy access, it's downtown, and we deserve it. To be quite honest, we deserve it. So I think you're right, Rob, in planting the seed. Who would have thought we'd be moving the public safety and building a new police station as well? 6 years ago, we said who would do it, but we planted the seed. So,
And I had seen a study, and I'm going to blurt it out, but I don't remember if this number is how accurate this number, but for every dollar somebody spends on a ticket, they spend $1.60 on the rest of the trip. So going out to dinner, on parking, on drinks afterwards or before. So as we try to attract restaurants to downtown, this is going to be one of those things that those restaurants, those nightclubs feed off of.
absolutely. Love it. Update budget and financial plan. New format presenting sources and uses in a table, easier to track, 2017 versus 2022. There is inflation included in these numbers, folks. As you see in 17, 49 million versus in 2022, 275 million.
So
Changes to
I want to jump in on this. There's a couple of things that have caused this number to jump. And the first one is the state has changed the way that they want us to record the potential site acquisitions. So it's our philosophy and the BRA's philosophy that when we identify something as an acquisition parcel, that means we want to see something happen there. It could be the current owner, it could be a new owner, but something needs to happen there. But we need to account for it. And so by putting all of the assessed values of the acquisition parcels, even though they're private acquisition parcels, it looks like oh my God, that's changed. We also didn't show the cost of building the Carpenter garage. We just showed debt service, and so that's been incorporated. So there's an extra $17 million there. And then the construction costs associated with downtown two-way traffic and infrastructure, that's a huge, huge number. It's not going to be paid for by the city of Brockton. There are, not all of it anyway, there are other funding mechanisms that will show up in this budget, including state and federal funds. But you have to show everything and where it's coming. So don't think that we are asking the residents of Brockton to pay $275 million of their tax money for these projects. It's a much, much lower number than that, but we have to account for it all.
Thank you, Rob, for that.
It's a scary number, I realize that.
So Rob, will we be naming the new Performing Arts Center after you? Because Robert said it's your Performing Arts Center.
You heard it here first, folks. It will probably be named after the mayor who secures the funding for it. That's just how those things go. And I will be a asterisk on a report someplace. That's just our lot in life.
That's what we do, Rob. We work in the trenches. That's what we do, you know? Excellent. I think that's the end of our slideshow. So let me ask, are there any other questions, concerns, comments? Here's the time. I mean, understand on next Wednesday, and I don't know how to unshare my screen here, so you can
Pat, would you
share.
help him?
Oh, stop
So-
share. There's a red thing that says
Yeah,
stop share.
stop share.
Okay. So here's the process. This is a meeting of the CAC. They will then make a presentation on the 20th. Frank, you'll probably be there as well as other members. It's a single vote by the Redevelopment Authority Board, who has been keeping up with this. I mean, we showed them this same screen, the same PowerPoint 2 months ago. We've updated it. We showed them the update. It was the board who suggested and recommended that we go ahead and have the CAC look at it and then bring their recommendations to the BRA Board of Directors.
Janet's
So we'll
going to take a picture of me. I'm going to take a picture of her.
Okay. So the CAC members will, on the 20th, 10 o'clock, it'll be via Zoom. Will make their presentation and recommendation to the board. The board will vote, at which point in time we will then go to the way the process works, the way we had the scheduled outline. We would then do a presentation to the planning board. But I think we're going to do a special meeting of the planning board.
That is correct.
Prior to that, we're going to go ahead and make try to get on the city council's agenda, because I think they have to do 2 or 3 readings of this. And speaking with several members of the city council, they suggested we get it in early as opposed to later, before they start their budget hearings, which I believe starts the end of May or June. So with that,
So
go ahead.
I just wanted to say, so what we're asking the Community Advisory or Citizens Advisory Committee is for them to have reviewed this plan and to say, yes, we believe these are important redevelopment opportunities that should be incorporated into the plan. You then would report out on the 20th to the full board of the Redevelopment Authority to say, yes, we think you should adopt these amendments. And then the board will take their vote and refer it to the city council.
Okay,
Is that right, Robert?
right. I think that's what I said, Rob, but I guess you said it better. Okay.
I just wanted to say it a second time.
Okay. All right. Excellent.
I love to talk.
Any questions, though? Any questions? Seeing how we have 3 members of the CAC here. I know, is Jasmine on? I don't see Jasmine. No? Okay. And I know Eunice DePina said that she would be on, but she's not as well. But we'll send these over to her, or we already sent them to them. Okay, excellent. So Frank, do you want to convene your committee at all prior to next Wednesday?
Or at least talk to them on the phone.
Yeah.
On the phone.
Well, since we have a majority of the committee here, okay, I don't think it would be necessary to, do it again. All right. I think, by raising of hands from the committee, do we approve of the updated urban renewal plan as it's been presented today? So
I'm sold. I'm sold.
me too. And I got a feeling Nelson's sold on it too.
Excellent.
You're right.
Okay.
Excellent. Fantastic, man. So Frank, what we'll do is we'll prepare the recommendation. We'll send it over to you, and then just on the 20th, you can just make for board approval.
Yep.
Your recommendation by the Citizens Advisory Committee. All right.
All right. And once again, that is a Zoom meeting. Is that correct?
It is a Zoom meeting, correct.
Okay.
10 o'clock. We'll make sure you get that. All right.
I'll set my alarm.
Excellent. All right. Excellent. It's now 4:06. Any other comments, questions, concerns? This is also going to be broadcast to the public, so hopefully all next week or this weekend we'll get this on the YouTube. It'll be on the BRA's website. Any comments we'll include also in the amendment as well. All right. Excellent. At this point, I'm going to conclude this meeting. Greg Day, thank you. Dale Day, thank you. Committee members, thank you. Rob, this is our job, so I can't thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
All right.
Thank you, Day Brothers
Thank you, guys.
and Father.
Take care. Take
Bye-bye.
care, folks.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.